Welcome back, everyone, to part 3 of Land of Confusion. Today, I'm really excited to introduce my new soul friend that I've recently connected with through the community. Friend sent me your video, and it came at the perfect time, right when we were kind of starting our own new space free from tyranny. And I got to send it into my new group, and I was just amazed that someone out there was saying some of the things that I was saying and had the courage that I had, because that is very hard to come by in my experience. So welcome, Brad. If you want to go ahead and just let the group or let the listeners know a little bit about your life and who you are.
Okay, I was a military brat. I don't know if you can see the pictures behind me. That's my dad as a second Louis, right in 1945, at the end of the war. That's him as a high-ranking officer in the Air Force at when he was in the Pentagon. And well, actually, 79 years ago today, my dad was surrounded by the German 6th SS Division in Bastogne and a number of other really bad Nazi people. And General Patton was on the way to rescue him. And I sort of feel like I'm the General Patton of our Florida State group. And they don't like me. They didn't like Patton either, but he got things done. And that's been my issue with things. But my background was I was a military brat, so I lived in England at 10. By the time I was 8 years old, I traveled all the way to where you live in that foreign country now, California. And by the time I was 8 years old, I'd been to Mexico and traveled across 37 states because my mom insisted that my poor dad had to drive. And so you get a real education when you're just a little kid and you see all this stuff. And when you're that young, but it was just at that age. And then I lived in England when I was 10. I started playing soccer. I've been playing soccer and coaching all my life. Lived in Germany at 17. Went to 5 high schools in 4 years. Let's see, what else happened? I graduated from high school in Germany. It was a wonderful life being a a military brat. You know, you had the great travel life in those days, especially in the Air Force, and it was just a wonderful education. Plus, we had the greatest schools overseas. Everybody wanted to be a teacher overseas. They got GS 11, 12 pay and got to stay free in a hotel. And boy, that was almost like a brothel. All the officers were hanging over. Oh, geez. Anyhow, I mean, stuff we heard in the school about what was going on, and we could drink at 16 in Germany, could walk across the street and have 3 beers and a sausage and go back for your German class in the afternoon. It's kind of cool. And came home, went to school at the University of Maryland, barely made it through. And when I got out, I was in Washington, but I didn't want to work for the government. And people were saying, "Oh, yeah, people can always some neighbor can get you a job." And my dad said, I could, I said, no, I'm going to find my own job. Well, that didn't work out so well. We had the first recession, and so I putzed around. And one time I was home visiting my dad, and I was really trying to get in the government. I took all the tests, and I got didn't miss any on them. I didn't take any of the State Department test, the hardest thing I ever, and the 8-hour things. You took them all, but I didn't have any Vietnam points. So I couldn't get in through normal things. So one time I'm home from, I think it was a senior year in college. No, I guess it was beyond that. It would have been, I was working, I'd been working 2 years, home visiting my folks, and went down and visit the cool neighbor who was between my age and between my parents' age, and down there shooting hoops. And he goes, "What are you doing now?" I said, "Now that I'm graduated and stuff." And he said, "You went to Maryland, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Did you ever see any marijuana out there?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And he goes, "You've got some?" I said, "Yeah. Would you like to try it?" And this guy, had a big gold chain, Italian guy from New York, he's he goes, "Well, let me put the kids out and bring Dawn in." So, and the upshot was I couldn't get in the government through normal channels. And I'm sitting there. I said, "Yeah, I took this, and I got the highest test, but I'm stuck in it." He goes, "Well, I'm a director. And I'm going, you're a director? What is that? So he goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm delivering coffee right now, temporary job around the city. He goes, well, come on by next Monday. He says, I got 2 jobs right now. The following week, I was in the government in a temporary job. Then he did some other kind of thing. And suddenly I was in the government with a permanent job. And in that time, I served in administration and office services, and we had a load and dock supply room, all the usual stuff, and learned the logistics of paperwork. And paperwork is important, which is something we're going to talk about one of the problems with the state groups. And I was very successful in my job up to a point, and we moved 900 people from out of the center of DC because we were losing the lease there, and to a building in Virginia. Didn't lose anything, didn't break anything, did it over 5 weekends at Christmas. Everybody made maximum pay. So some of the people from the loading dock that were moving furniture and helping us, they had to work 80 hours, but they could get 15 step 10 pay, which is absolutely the highest GS level. And oh, but at Christmas time, they loved it. Time I got home, my ex-wife had already spent all the money, but we did this, and then they said, God, it was so successful. And the Post wrote, Washington Post said, and they asked me to write this big report, and they sent it out to other agencies. So we sort of got known, and that kind of got me brought downtown with a promotion to the Department of Agriculture, where 2 years later, I was trapped into a situation where I had to blow the whistle. And that began an 8-year ordeal. I lost 2 outside businesses, a marriage, the family home, 3 rental properties I had, and ultimately was just beaten, and they just, it was all in-house, and there's no, the person that is proposing your suspension for 2 weeks or whatever is his boss is the person that's really doing this, and the IG, you go to the inspector, it's not an honest inspector general in the city of Washington, 75 agencies, they're all crooks. FBI were crooks then, DOJ were crooks then, except for the guys from the serial killer unit that had just started up, and I coached all their kids in soccer, but those guys were good. Nevertheless, I had a lucky break. One day I came back to the office, and the secretary said, hey, there's a ticket for you to go over and be in a meeting with the vice president. I said, Melody, I said, these people don't want me in a meeting with the vice president. Are you crazy? She said, no, they called. She said, look, here's the message. If you want a ticket, you'll be in a meeting with the vice president. I said, I'm the most vocal whistleblower in the United States Department of Agriculture, and I'd go on down there. And to this day, the lady gave me the ticket. She wouldn't tell me who had put me in for it. To this day, I don't know, but it saved my career and destroyed at the same time, because while Gore was talking, he was the new vice president, and they were doing this on TV. It was on C-SPAN, and Department of Agriculture, in their infinite wisdom, decided to direct feed it to every university where we had agriculture extension service, which was every university in the United States and some overseas. So this thing goes out, and Gore goes, now, he says, any of you government employees ever feel like if you find something wrong in the office, you'll just get in trouble? And I said, yeah. And I mean, I was going to be suspended the following Monday. And he says, I just saw somebody raise his fist down in the audience. He says, sir, he says, I'll bet you have an idea how we can make government better, don't you? And I said, yes, sir, I do. And I'll get back to you. Well, now I'm going, oh my God, this is now I'll get back. And I thought, he's never going to come back to me. He finished his speech. He said, somebody take a microphone. That gentleman raised his fist with enthusiasm. I want to hear what he has to say. Just that morning, the agency, because I had started a union, of the first white collar union in this agency ever, I started this union, so they had to give this information. They had signed an illegal lease for 5 new buildings around DC, like 25 million, and would have ended up being 50 million, right? And I had it in my breast pocket, and I didn't even think about it. And Gore says, okay, tell us. So I told him the whole story, and a couple times I talked about the racism, how when I tried to promote people that were working for me, I had an all-black staff. Every time I tried to promote any of them, blood was all over the floor. Sort of like some of these state groups when you try and get something. What do I know? Anyhow, so 3 times, like there were 2 times there were like standing ovations, and 2 other times there were like big applause. But in that moment, I blew the hell out of everything they were doing, and nothing really happened to any of them. But then they had to settle with me. But when they got my claim, it was $2.4 million, very well documentable. I had businesses and stuff, and they wiped it. I had the 4th largest privately owned commuter van pool operation in the United States. I had 33 vans, they were 3 spares, and I had 33 total vans, 3 of them were spare. And I had 2 mechanics that were operating the roads. If one of them broke down, and there were other van pool operators, but I was very large, and they wiped that out in 6 months. And that's a long story, so I won't tell you that. But anyhow, the upshot is after Gore left, the same people, and they were all Bushies, were still left in there. And that's the worst bunch of slime balls, Papa Bush's people. They would have sold their mamas. And the difference always was, for government employees, I'll just tell you this. So you all want to learn about bureaucrats and what we think, and it's still true. The difference between when a Republican administration comes in and a Democratic administration comes in is when the Democrats come in, it takes them 3 years to learn how to find the bathrooms. They are the dumbest people you ever saw. Our administrator, her resume it was all gobbledygook, and when you read it, it looked like she flunked out of secretarial school 3 times, but that she did go to school with the new secretary in kindergarten with childhood friend. So now she's going to run a banking agent? No. So anyhow, that was the Democrats. The Republicans would have sold their mamas for a nickel. So that's okay. So that's my background. I blew the whistle. 4 years after I blew the whistle with Gore, I was forced to go to federal district court. I was pro se, but I did have a lawyer. I gave him my last $4,000, and about 2 years. So the whole thing took 8 years. 2 years later, I was on the operating table. I think they poisoned me. I'll never be able to know. But DOJ comes and calls my lawyer and says, hey, your client's going to die, and agriculture is never going to settle with him. We'll make him an offer that he can't refuse. And we really mean it, because he's going to take our lowball offer, or we're going to make this case last 10 years more, even though we got a dog. And they know I had everything. I had their handwritten notes, everything they were going to do with me. And from like the first week, but I didn't get them until the 5th year. So this, it was amazing. So I am one of 1% that has actually won a settlement, survived. And after that, I lived in Germany. I met a girl and decided, what the hell, I'll go over there and see how that goes. And I went to Germany, ended up staying 10 years, came back to take care of my dear old dad. He lived 4 more years, and I was going to go back, but time my father passed away, I had a kitty and a girlfriend, and I wasn't going anywhere. So here I am. And I had promised myself I would never vote for another Republican for the rest of my frapping life. After Papa Bush, I had voted all Republican up to then. The military people were always Republican, and Papa Bush's people did it to me. And the first Republican I ever voted for after that was not really a Republican, the greatest president that's ever been in the history of the United States. And that's how I got into this. I was very happy being retired with my 5 kiddies and my fine Colombian girlfriend, traveling. I have German grandchildren now. My son lives over there, married to a German girl. Very happy with that. Sit home, watch football, smoke weed, drink beer, and enjoy my retirement.
Yep.
And I never thought I'd be able to use any of this. And now it's all coming together that in such a way that I'm using all of it, especially this court stuff. I filed 3 cases so far here in Florida. You wouldn't know it, because we have certain people that want to make sure that nothing gets out there that we do, because they can't do it and therefore it doesn't ever get to Tory. And that's part of the problem. And that's how really, when I saw your videos the other night, now maybe we ought to say how you saw one of my videos and sent me a message. And then I saw your videos and I was about to go to bed. You kept me up. I'm going to tell you, I normally like a lot of noise. Okay. I like noise when I sleep, and I normally listen to good old Salty Cracker. Sometimes I listen to Tory, but because I do the Tory Clips channel where I aggregate Tory's clips. I don't know, maybe we'll post all these links and stuff you said afterwards. But because I do the Tory Clips channel and have done since August of 2021, I hear Tory's show and see it once most of the time because I get back and it's already started. So I have to re-record it from the beginning, and I don't like to try and put things back together. So I ended up seeing most Tory shows at least twice, sometimes 3 times. If they're a good show, I have listened to the same show as many as 4 times one day.
Me
And
too.
so I found her the same way through Shadowgate. I was a Q person. I did YouTubes. I got booted from YouTube. I got booted from Twitter because I was did some Q stuff, Anyhow, and then I found Tory and I started to listen to her. And back in August of 2020, I started to hear that she's going to have these state groups. And I got all excited, and a bunch of people got excited. And we were already talking. And Tory, I don't know if you remember when she was on Twitch, she used to do these raids and go to a disco guy. And she went to this, disco person and could get talking in there with these people. And we were all going to meet. And some of them were already in Florida. And, oh, I can't wait for you to meet you. And I'm here. And, oh, I'm in Ocala. Where are you? Kind of thing. Okay. Right. And I'm like fired up about this. In the meantime, I formed a company because I didn't know when Tory was going to get this done. So I formed, guess what? Inspired by Tory, Team America. Well, not by the movie. I haven't seen a movie since Gone with the Wind. Okay. And so I formed this company, Team America LLC, and I started to work. And just even before I ever met these people, let's see here, I had done a complete study. I don't know if you can see it there, called Election Fraud in the Sunshine State. And it's got the proof that they stole the 2020 election here, with documents that it was very hard to get the totals from our state of Florida, unless you could only get for your county that year. You had to call in, give your zip code, and they would give you just for your district. Wait a frapping minute, okay? So you couldn't get it. You know where I found, and see, I did these 2 spreadsheets, and this was a mind blower to a lot of people. Just right at the very end, there's a lot. Tory's affidavit is the very first thing in here. Look, and this is Tory's affidavit right here. And this was the very first tab and the very first thing that went to Governor Ron DeSantis. Oh, wait a minute, this is just the cover sheet. Okay, so you will recognize this page from Tory's original Supreme Court thing that went with Sidney Powell, I think. Okay, so I had that in there. I had the spreadsheet. This spreadsheet says, now, believe you don't live in Florida, but I'm sure you went through the same bullshit in California, although you probably didn't have to. But when Hillary was running against, who did she run against? 2016. When Hillary ran against Trump here in Florida, Trump didn't have any ads hardly at all until the Sheldon Adelson gave him $1 million right at the end, and Trump suddenly would start. He'd have 2 ads a day, and Hillary had one every 10 seconds. Everything. There's 40 on my YouTube channel. They never gave me a nickel. Don't even think that even if you get 1 million viewers, you will never get a nickel from YouTube for advertising. And they will always just keep you right under. And but they sure ran advertisements for Hillary all over my YouTube. Anyhow, here in Florida, she did a debate here. She was down here every other week. She really needed Florida, and she campaigned hard. Okay, Trump won Florida by a frog hair down here in 2016. Okay. Now, if you want to believe the official Florida numbers right here, okay, and you know where I was able to find them? Wikipedia. And you know who provided them? Florida Secretary of State's office media team or something. And I'm going, wait a minute. As a member, you know, and I just happened to luck into it. And I didn't even see it when I downloaded it. It said courtesy of, wait a minute. Okay, but that's, you know. Essentially, the numbers on this spreadsheet say that Joe Biden, first off, there's counties where every registered voter, Republican and Democrat plus independents, the numbers are just unbelievable. But the 2016 numbers and the 2020 numbers, I compared Joe Biden's totals in Florida to Hillary's. You used to occasionally see a Hillary bumper sticker or sign here, although this is not, there were none, okay? There was not a Biden sign anywhere in the state of Florida. And I'm serious about that. And somehow Joe Biden in Florida beat Hillary's 2016 totals by 800,000 votes. What? And he beat Obama's Florida totals by even, oh God. And so who believes that? And I had also done, I did, I was working on critical race theory, debunking you know, so I've done all these things and I was really excited. And I'd had a bad experience with group dynamics in another local group up here. And after about 3 weeks of people that just want to go out and wave Trump flags, you know, and I said, wait a minute, we you know, let's get organized. You know, we got all these, every week they had a whole new group coming to this restaurant and every week they start falling off. I finally tried to get in there and organize them. And I created forms and petitions. Here's the action plans, you know, typical government bureaucrat stuff, but stuff that a lot of people out here in the, you know, in the, not that what's done in the swamp is a good thing, but we do know logistics and paperwork management, stuff like petitions, anyhow, had all this cool stuff in there. And so went to the Sarasota meeting all excited. And Trump was going to be there. And we all met at a Panera Bread in the morning. And that night there was a big blow up in the organization. And the 2 state leaders defected and tried to take me because of this one document I just showed you, because they were going to go with somehow the girl was on, April was on Steve Bannon and Joe, some girl that worked with Jovan Pulitzer called me and I said, no, I'm a Tory cis person. I've been with Tory now for close to a year, so I don't know how long it had been.
And to clarify, this is the other group that you were in?
Yeah.
Okay.
When we were in Sarasota, and our state leaders showed up real late instead of when they were supposed to be there. And then they all went back to this horse farm, and because the one girl was sick, and she's been a real problem here for me ever since. I've always thought she was an infiltrator. And, you know, Tori wants to talk about ops. Yeah, we got ops. We're going to talk about that. All right. So anyhow, we all met and everything should have been hunky-dory. But every piece of work that I tried to put forward got squashed in favor of nothing. I developed a little network. I said, look, everybody carries a phone. Take, you know, what, you know, some of us are older and retired. Make the kid at the shopping center push your bags out to the car. And while you're walking out there with him, turn on your cell phone and ask him what he thinks of the school mask policy and send them to me. And well, Bergie's going to be here and we don't have time to talk about it. We'll talk about that some other time. Well, nothing came of that. It's sad. And I try to do it myself, but you know, there was no input. You know.
I want to just say, I think that this is an important point is that you're bringing up about coming in with all of this passion and knowledge, and every one of us has a different skill set. Some people, you know, shine in different areas. And I think that when we all found these groups, what do we have in common? We want to fix our states. We want to fix our country. We have a passion. We see what's wrong with the world. And I saw people coming in with excitement, including myself. And then I've watched it dwindle over time because of the kind of stuff you're talking about now, the shutting down of work. What experience do you have with like bringing forth lawsuit ideas or anything else? Like what tactics did you see of shutting down?
I followed I was following Tori just every day. And when she said quo warranto, my very first speech before our local commissioners here was, I hear a bunch of you talking about moving up and don't worry, we'll fix the elections when he moves up. We'll fix the problem with the elections when he moves up. Well, wait a minute. Well, what's wrong with that picture? When he moves up to the legislature in Tallahassee, I should call him because he'll fix the elections then. Well, how do you know he's going to move up? You know, these people were crazy.
So there was always some idea of why it was a bad idea. Did it matter really what the thing was that you were bringing forward? And did you see this happen with other people?
At first, they loved my work. They put me in a video to lead off. I said, I hear y'all talking about moving up. I'm going to talk about quo warranto, which, where did I get that? I got that from Tori. I said, we're going to quo warranto all of you. I said, these are illegal elections, and they had never had anybody like me there before because I'm crazy, and that's a good thing. Because when you've been through the whistleblower thing, I'm not scared of any of this bull. Look, these people, I think they really tried to poison me twice. You'll never be able to prove it. It's been 20 years ago. I'm healthy now. I'm out of the damn government, but I've been through a lot. I never went to war, but I've got the wounds from 7 major operations and really 28 operations in all, really, by the time they got me all back together. And I think they ripped out a few organs, pieces of things just to see if I might die on the, it was a crazy CIA outfit, George Washington University. Didn't know it then, know it now. But I talked about quo warranto. We were going to every school board meeting. We were going to every commissioner's meeting. I got a video editor. I was cutting things and posting it, but you never saw any of it. I would occasionally post something on the Tori Says Plus chat site, but I said, we're in a state. These are our own groups. And also, too, after the big split where these girls all defected and they were all painted as real bad people, I'm not so sure anymore, but 3 people went back over to Tori's hotel room. And then I got a call about a week later from one of them who I always trusted, a great leader, I thought anyway. I'm not so sure anymore. She sure hasn't stepped up to tell the truth to Tori, even though, well, she actually has and seems to have gotten ignored. But anyhow, I get a call from her and she said, well, we've divided everything up now to make things easier. Divide and conquer, that's kind of a silly thing. We only ever really needed 1 or 2 of these things, but we got to specialize. We got the law fair, we got the meetup thing, we got this one, and you can only talk about CTAs. And the thing that you said the other night about the interpretation of the CTAs, I had already done a video about that, in which Tori had said, she went and voted. And she said something to the effect that, this, and this, and we ought to send a privacy or records request to all the supervisors of elections and ask them where our privacy information is gone. Well, now, Tori, I've got a question for you. What's going on in all these chat rooms with all these admins discussing me and my work without me present, without me even knowing about it, to decide whether or not I should be allowed to stay in a group in which I was a founding member, and with all due respect, have done most of the work, me and my little team. And my colleague, Diane, didn't even know she'd been thrown out, okay? She hadn't, they've never liked me because from the beginning, I said, we got to have logistics. We got to have media outreach. We've got to do something with this. We got to have follow-up. We got to have records management. If you send 200 Freedom of Information Act requests or whatever you're sending, you got to have somebody that collects them all, whatever the responses are. Say, this one's a non-response, this is a good response, this one is a half response, and figure out how you're going to respond to them, because all that stuff, when you get into court, is the evidence you need. That's why when they complain about me writing stuff in these chat rooms and being openly vocal about the issues, they never want you to talk about it out here and say what this, and this. Oh no, take that private. No, this is our chat room. I'm not taking anything private. We've been waiting for this issue to be resolved for 1.5 years.
Well, it's transparency really that is not, it doesn't seem to be welcome in any of these situations. I've noticed when I was in the admin chats, it was always, I would address things publicly that they would say privately, because the room needed to know, because it was about the room. I saw decisions being made for the room, so I would address it publicly. And in the private admin chat, they're like, don't tell them what we say in private. And I'm like, why? We're not here to lord over them or to make decisions for them. We're here to discuss with them and take their direction for what we're supposed to do. But as we know, it's flipped the other way. And transparency is something I've noticed a lot. There's a lot of don't talk about that out in the open. And just even in your chat, I recently found a friend sent your video to me, and I go into your chat. I think I made one comment to you like, hey, yeah, we're seeing this in California too. And then the next time, what was it, yesterday, I messaged you. I was like, I went to say something in your chat and it says that I'm restricted. Did you do that? And you're like, no, I don't have admins. I didn't do it. Well, then I followed the Telegram thing and I find out that people are in there reporting me because they're terrified of what I'm going to say out loud. And these people have always been terrified because I speak the truth, and everyone knows it's true, because what I'm learning now is so many people are coming to me and coming forward saying that I live in this state, I live in that state. It's my exact story. I'm getting so many messages of people coming out, and it's like lockstep, the exact same story.
Yeah. Last 2 days since you and I started talking. Oh God. And you know they're going to be one. Hey, make sure that everybody knows that our interview will be under their Christmas tree tomorrow morning in time for everybody.
We're doing this on Christmas Eve. Yes. And
this is important for our country.
Well, it is important. And here's the thing. I have to say this, that this isn't easy necessarily to do this. I've been called a narcissist. I've been called all these things, and I can understand that perception, but the thing is, all I know how to do is speak to these things. And I'm not doing it because I want to stir up trouble. I'm not doing it because I want to attack Tori or any of these people. I'm doing it because this has real life consequences to many people's lives. I mean, hundreds of people have similar experiences and also have had their defamation against them, untrue things said in public ways, and they've been pushed out of our community. This has been a real divide and conquer, whether intentional or not. This is exactly what we've seen. And so it's like someone has to have the courage to just say it out loud, because if it doesn't get cleaned up, it's going to keep going. And that's something I kind of wanted to discuss. So I've noticed a lot of people have an explanation for this, and I don't want to jump to conclusions. I just want to look at these explanations, because this is what I told myself the whole time I was there. When I saw all these red flags, I would tell myself, Tori is teaching us a deeper lesson. She's got to be very careful because there's ops. And, I can still understand how some of that could be possible. But as far as teaching us a deeper lesson of basically overcome in the face of everything, when she interferes to make sure that can't happen whatsoever, then that's where I have a conflicting issue. And I do believe that the people who are still in these rooms should stay and should fight and should overcome and should find workarounds and create new spaces. But that's the thing. I'm not saying anyone should go away from this community, because this community ultimately is people. And that's what's important. But as far as this whole idea that there's some big lesson, yes,
they are our group.
They truly are. And if this idea that
come from.
Right. And this idea that there's some great big lesson for me. I'm like, what are we in? A year and a half, 2 years? At some point, if that aha moment never comes, then we're in a cycle of, I personally call it abuse, but it could just be a cycle of stuckness, limbo, whatever. So what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, now, we are in a cycle, and uh, I don't know that it's abuse. Our problem has been, we may actually have an op here. I do think that we've had an infiltrator. I said from day one, in March, just to pick up the story where I was in March of 2021. I had already done all these things. We had filed a I filed a writ of mandamus in December of 2020, I think. Took a picture, sent it, and there was nothing, crickets. About a day later, I get a call from our selected state leader. And isn't that what we're fighting? I thought we were trying to fight against selected people, and they seem to be raining on us like cats and dogs right now. We've got, I figured it out. The only person that's not an admin in all of the state of Florida is me. And I've never been asked, didn't even know about it. So I'm in the chat room one day, and I was trying to we were working to get a candidate qualified, Pastor Jack Martin here, and everybody and his dog knows him. We've got a rhino. He would have been a good target. We had, at the time, 1,100 people in our room. I said, I want to post these things for Pastor Jack. Oh, no, he's not, Tori says. I said, he might be if we could get him involved and help him out.
Donald Trump isn't in Tori Says chat.
Right. And
are we not allowed to vote for him and promote him?
and our leader didn't want, because she was running for Congress and it should be all about her. Then we had so we had that, and I was a little critical. Okay. And I said, this is silly. We have 1,100 people and we have candidates. It's a redistricting year. So anybody from Florida could sign Jack's petition and we could sign anybody else's. And we didn't utilize it. And our candidates had to pay for themselves. Now, I understand that our state leader may have been given a stock tip that helped a couple of them raise the money so that they could run. Now, that was real cute. I don't know. I only ever heard a rumor about that, but it's, however it happened, they all paid. And me and my colleague, Diane, worked. I bought tickets at a flea market to get Pastor Jack petitions, and we got him qualified, and then they stole the election from him. Now, in all that time, it's always been about this person, and everybody is afraid of this person because she has Tori's number and she is Tori's friend. And this goes back to what you said in your video, that also, I was asleep. I wanted noise, and all of a sudden I hear this and I go, wait a minute. And then you were preaching to the choir and you were channeling things that I've already said on the East Coast here. And I got up at 2 a.m. and cut all of your segments all up and posted them next morning. And that's how we got together.
When I saw that, I was like, here we go. Because I'm like blocked from everything. So I don't really have a voice in that space, even though I try to drop stuff in, it gets removed in like 30 seconds. So when you posted those, I was like, here we go. It's about to get crazy.
We got a note back from somebody that we, had been, at least trying to stay neutral and stuff. And it helped me a little bit. And, but had another friend of mine had sent this lady some of your videos. And the note came back, don't ever send this stuff to me again. I have no desire to look at it. What?
Cover your ears and say la 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 la. That's
are you a commie child trafficker? What are you here?
Well, here's something I want to discuss real quick, is that one of the tactics that reminds me of is there's there's obviously a lot of talk about infiltration in our community from the top down. And it's like, even, oh yeah, we have feds as admins and all this, and there's operators and infiltrators everywhere. So it's created a very paranoid situation that I touched on. But I think that this has been a very useful tactic for people who don't want you to tell certain things, because all they have to do is associate you with one of those people. And a frustrating thing for me, and I'll speak just for myself, is, we even see from the top, she'll repost things that are like, go get this person or look at that person. And it's almost, I think, like a setting an example of don't do that. And I have to say, when I left, right before I made the decision to get vocal, like when I was driving home and I felt like God said, go now. Now's the time. And I came home, I turned on my camera, I prayed, and I hit record. And I'm just following where the Spirit's leading me. But right before it happened, I was thinking of all those instances she shared of threatening people with lawsuits, all of this stuff. And I got a little like, oh, she'll do that to me. And then I realized I was supposed to feel afraid to talk. And people are supposed to feel afraid to associate with me. Like, I'm at the point now where I don't know how many friends I'm going to lose because of this. I don't know who's going to be afraid to just ask me simple questions, because I've watched them do the guilty by association. So I've already made my own bed in this community. I'm the bad girl that like is drawing my own conclusions about Tori. But the sad thing is, the people like in the California room, the admins of all these chats, anyone who talks to me, they'll be like, she's friends with her, therefore you're bad too. So people are terrified. They're terrified to speak out. They will come to me privately, and I hope that they're learning over time. I will never betray. I will never betray anyone's trust. I will never put your information, personal stuff out there. But that fear is really heartbreaking for me. Another thing I noticed is I had to make an apology recently, and I called someone that I had demonized because they had been demonized, and I was just like, dude, I'm free now. And he was like, that's awesome, be a part of this group. This group is literally just a chat, and I know that if they get screenshots of me in this group, it's going to be another thing to use against me. And I realized, I was like, they literally have kept us from talking with other people.
It's a cult. It has become a cult in some cases. Now, we've lost from 1100. Last I heard, our leaders said, well, we don't really have that. I said, well, what do we? Well, we don't really have the 700 it shows there. We've actually got about 200 and some. And see, it's also become very cliquey. And everybody's very possessive of Tori and doesn't want to hurt her. And I don't want to hurt her either. I've learned a shitload of stuff from Tori. And I do still take, as you said you do, some of the stuff she says. I'm not going to go send a Freedom of Information Act to my supervisor of elections, but I might just ask for affidavits, which I did. And I got one. Okay, I put this thing on every TS back before they muted me, and it said, Tori said, do affidavits while it's fresh. I said, I put in mine, and then I took out blanks and said, and just fill in your own stuff down here on block 26 or whatever it was, and said, I have a writ of mandamus that I wrote last year, the first thing, right? And right after that, we get off in tangents, but in March, I was critical about this petition issue. I had already done the writ of mandamus, and I was really the first one. She called me and she said, what are you doing?
The state admin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I said, well, I did this writ of mandamus. Well, I'm supposed to do that. Well, I'm not doing the same one you're doing. I don't have a kid in school. He hasn't been injured by the masks. I'm doing one, like Tori said, look in your state constitution and see what you find. And I found direct and secret voting. So I did one for direct and secret voting, which is where we are now. I filed a federal lawsuit here in Florida on behalf of our Tori Says Florida State group, and nobody heard about it for 6 weeks. And I had been left out of the lawfare group, didn't even know about it. And then one day,
what?
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a lawfare group. And one day, one of the admins calls me, and because she was in my clips thing, and I was and one of my team, I have a Team America site, and she was in that, and I was bitching about the fact that, we've got to get these TROs done, we've got to do this, that, and the other thing. And she said, well, let me talk to the people in our lawfare group. So what the fork are you talking about? Lawfare group? What? And it was our great leader said that, well, yeah, maybe he could come back in so long as he doesn't shit all over our work. Well, I've never shit all over the people's work. What I've always said was we need logistics. The people are doing all these mail things and they take pictures, and that's great. But there's no follow-up and we don't know what we've done. You can't tell me what was done on a certain date, any date last year, and I can tell you every day that I've worked, how many hours I've worked, how many miles I put in, where I went, what I was doing. And that's going to make it very easy when I have to sue these people for damages. But we don't want to be negative. We're talking about the issue.
Yes, we're talking. No, I'm glad that you shared your story. So I'm kind of looking at time, so it's not. What's that?
What you were talking about before, the only thing I would interject in all this stuff that was happening to you, this is what happens to every whistleblower. And none of us ever wanted to be a whistleblower. I got forced into something.
No, I was so happy to be here. I told you on the phone earlier that it's breaking my heart that I'm having to kind of expose my hero.
Went to every meetup.
It's horrible for, like, I love Tori on so many levels. I see the beauty in her. I'm not to the point where I blindly follow her and I can actually criticize her, which I think is healthy. If you can't criticize a leader, that's when you know you're in a situation that is not healthy, especially when we're a freedom community by name. It should definitely be like the beacon of light for transparency. It's hard for me to do this because I do love her and I don't want to hurt her. But the only person that can make this right, in my opinion, at this point is her.
She's got to fire all these admins. These people are.
She's got to prove me wrong because I've lost all trust.
We're full of all kinds of naval intel people. And we talked about that one person that's, retiring at the end of this month that suddenly appeared out of nowhere and is already an admin in the upper admin group. But you're in the lower admin group. Well, can you talk to the upper admin group? Well, no, not exactly. Well, Tori was in here and she said this is mandatory. And my friend Diane, who everybody likes, a little tiny little girl, she's tough, she's a tough speaker and she gives them hell at school board and stuff. And that's how we met. And she didn't even know she'd been thrown out of the group, but she's never been in one of the Tori says, plus she's never been in the main Tori without, she's only been in the chat one and didn't know. And I called her up. I said, well, it looks like they really are doing this mandatory membership. What value is that? And I said, check and see if you've been thrown out. And she said, yeah, all these things are gone. So one, those are private records in which we participated. And as are your chat room discussions, all discoverable. And this is something we should talk about for the admins, okay? And this is very important because in many states, in many of these groups, they have no charter. They've never had elections. We are an amorphous group, very loosely knit. We're all just friends. We do meetups. We do all sorts of things together. We do calls to action together. However, nobody is more equal on the animal farm than the other animals. And unfortunately, these admins, because they think almost like the Milgram experiment, because somebody tells you in a white coat, yeah, give this guy a shock. And we've got these lower level admins going, how are they? Yeah, and I'm like, wait a forking minute. So what value is there to throw all these people out now just because they,
without explanation? That's my thing is I thought of all the possibilities and the only ones that are coming to my mind are not great. They're like around data collection and stuff like this and identification. So I'm like, even if you're going to do something, she has every right to do whatever she wants in her space, even though she calls it our space. We know it's not. Explain it to us though.
It is our space. These are our state rooms. They were set up by people way back when. Tori's name is
That's
not
true.
on any of, and if Tori's name is on any of these things, and if this is her space, then she's the one that's liable. Okay. Now let me get back to the admin thing because I don't know how much time we have, but and I talk a lot and then I go off on tangents and I'm sorry. And you know that because we've spent the
Hours on the
last
phone.
days on the phone. I'm your boyfriend's probably getting jealous by now, But these admins, okay, have gotten into these groups and they're sitting in chat rooms talking about our private conversations and deciding on whether or not you were nasty to somebody, and they are making decisions on about people that they don't like, and they just throw them out. There's nothing given. But here's the thing. Many of us have incurred expenses doing projects for Tori Says groups. Your groups are not organized under any charters or anything like that. We've never had elections here in Florida. Therefore, if you as an admin are sitting in a chat room and 3 of you or 4 of you, however many, say, I don't like Ashley Joe and let's just get her the hell out of here. Let's just ban her or whatever, because she's a narcissist. I heard that again today too. I heard you say that. Yeah, I just got that this morning twice. So, I'm a narcissist. Okay, well, if you're as an admin sitting in there making these decisions, not only is this a invasion of our privacy, okay, but if we incur damages, and believe me, I've done a lot of work for this group and I have been heavily damaged. They have blockaded and kept me from putting out press releases. They've done nothing to publicize it. To give you an example, when I filed the federal court case, Tori never heard about it for 5 weeks. Yet, a group of our in-crowd people, the sci-fi nerds who only talk about cool stuff that we wouldn't understand, had a Friendsgiving party in which they only told half the people and all the in-crowd showed up and didn't tell anybody. And then our grand poobah posted the picture, sent it to Tori because she's friends with Tori, and it gets posted 3 days later. And people that didn't get invited they were hurt.
Yeah, of course.
Very hurt. And it was, well, this wasn't a Tori said, this was an accident. No, it wasn't an accident. 2 weeks before that, I had a meeting at my house and our leader and her little sidekick, the infiltrator, were basically forced to come because they knew other important people that are doing work were going to be there, and they do nothing, but they like to take credit for it. So they showed up. And during that, I had the court case that I filed, and some of you may have seen the picture. The first one was this thick. The second, the modified one was this thick. You have to do it all on paper. I mean, they're into me. After they put me in a lawfare group and nobody had done anything, I said, okay, I'll have this done by next Thursday because that's when it's due. And when I did it, there was no support because, well, they'd had 7 months and nobody had done anything except collect a lot of documents. Wasn't a single word on paper. I sat down and worked like 20 hours a day for 3 straight days. And I'm an old man. I got time. It's just me and 5 cats. And I sit at my keyboard all day anyway. But you do this and you file it and nothing happens. But yet 3 days after their Friendsgiving Fest gets to Tori, gets published, and the people get upset, and then they're all defensive about it. Like, if should we have to invite you to Christmas dinner too, just because we know? No, but you don't do a secret thing and then send it to Tori after we just had an event at my house in which I said, I can do all this, the pro se stuff on this case up to a point. Our idea is to be in court, but realistically, we cannot win, okay? And the best thing we can do is be in the court for as long as possible and get it into the press that these group of patriots, the 7 women that I had pictures of the 7 women that met me in Tallahassee. So there were some Tory Says people. It's not just me, okay? And they don't want to publish it. They don't want to do anything, right? And they, but yet there's pictures there. And at that meeting in my house, I said, I have one question. I have an endorsed order from the judge that's very opposite in the 2 things. And you can't do both because they're opposite things. And I need a lawyer so anybody got a brother-in-law, I know some of Tory's lawyers live here in Florida. Some of you may be in touch with Tory. I have one question. I need to talk to a lawyer for 1 minute to tell me what the fork the judge wants. And I went over that 3 times, plus about the data and spreadsheets and stuff about the recent elections, stuff like that, trying to get some things organized, right? So these 2 people were there, and several of them were there that were planning this event, okay? And I wouldn't have gone. I'm 72 years old. I don't want to party with these fools. I'm working. I'm trying to bring our president back, I don't need to go down there to smoke weed. I can do it right here in front of my keyboard, okay? And then, drink coffee and beer, whatever I'm doing, and
Yeah.
I like my house and I don't like to leave my cats alone. Okay. So they don't like me to leave them alone either. So anyhow, but I asked this question and then I look in this picture that got posted all over. And there is Grant, Tory's lawyer, grinning like a Cheshire cat in the picture. Now, don't you think if they knew that they could have said, hey, we're going to be seeing Grant in 2 weeks, we'll ask him, or we'll have him give you a call. Or they could have asked Grant there and given me a call. No.
See, this is the shit that's infuriating to me. Like now I'm like, let's keep it positive. Now I'm getting angry. Like I'm telling you, it's orchestrated.
We served, listen, when these fools, when we did this case, they tried to ignore our initial summons kind of stuff and said, oh, they hadn't been summoned. So I said, okay, well, we'll show them. So we sent somebody with a subpoena to the governor's office. We're going to try and do it like ladies and gentlemen with a waiver kind of thing. No, they don't want to do that. And our supervisor of elections initially accepted everything. And then I get a call from the lawyer and he says, no, we're not going to accept this. We're going to do a motion to quash. We're going to do this, that, and the other thing because you didn't service and you can't service that way. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, I'll run down and get one tomorrow and I'll drop it by. No, sir, you can't do that. You have to get a U.S. Marshal or you have to pay a server and we won't accept it. I said, oh, okay. Well, I knew that was wrong. Okay. All a server needs to be is 18. Okay. Quasi-mentally competent. And I think they even took that out. So over 18 and not a party to the case. Well, I'm pro se, even though I filed this on behalf of the Tory Says people and was getting donations through the lawfare. I only take checks or cash because I got, and so I put a little P.O. box that said, hey, if any of you young people still use checks, you can send me donate. Because people were asking, how can we help? Because there are expenses. And I can't even get that anymore because I was kicked off the lawfare group right after I filed the case. Okay. But my colleague, they said, you didn't service right. So I said, all right, Diane, when we go into the commissioners meeting next Tuesday, they're going to be swearing in all the new commissioners, every judge in the county, everybody that's anybody in this county, everybody and his dog is going to be there. We will get up and serve Shirley right in front of them. Okay. With a subpoena and make them eat shit and die. All right. So I got up, gave my usual speech, and I said, no, Shirley's not the one that's to blame. And this is all being done from Washington. And even she wouldn't know and this and that. And I said, but this whole thing, I said, it says here that I didn't serve people right. And the person, and I kind of led up to it. And then Diane gets up and did a little speech about it. And then right at the end, she says, and by the way, I am over 18, mentally competent, and I'm not a part of this case as Mr. Benson described. And I hereby, she turned away and then she got away from the mic. She turned back to the mic and goes, Shirley Anderson, I hereby serve you with this summons. Turned around and laid it right in the woman's lap. and you could have heard a pin drop. All you could hear was people pooping their drawers.
I
Really.
can't wait to meet her.
Well, she's an amazing woman. It's very, and that's what, and we have always worked together. And now she was booted out of the Tory Says group, and that has never yet made it to Tory, or if it did, she didn't post it.
So real quick, why did you get removed? Did you get booted
I
from
don't know.
the
I
Florida
was
room?
already, they don't like the way I talk because sometimes, see, I'm probably a pretty good writer. I fought the government for 8 years. And if I wasn't already before, I'm pretty good at debating and writing. And I'm
A
much more
little bit, yeah.
articulate with my keyboard, winning with the pen, than when I'm sitting here. If I was debating you, I just wouldn't let you talk, and that's a problem. Got free association.
So they didn't give you a reason, or they said
no reason, and I was muted because these people came in right before Thanksgiving, and you were talking about the yipping dogs, where it's always in threes, and I call it the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz movie, and with all these new admins, it's like, this is mandatory and imperative, and they have a collaborators room, and then there's all this propaganda bullshit like Tory Says is really all about. It's written by, looks like something out of like Joseph Stalin kind of bullshit. And you're going, what the, and you have to do this, and that's not what I signed up for, Tory. I'm sorry. You said everything was going to be these little state groups. We were going to run them. We asked for elections. You actually Tory came into the thing at our grand poobah's request and put up a poll, and people voted, even though they were all circling around hating me. They all somehow voted for elections. And then my friend, the lady who I thought should be the leader, and who's always led quietly and stuff, and said, when I was thrown out, I'm working to get you back in, because I had been critical. And this girl that I didn't even know wasn't even in our Central Florida region, and I made a criticism. She said something back, and I answered it. And the next thing, I'm out of all of them.
yeah.
That's the first time.
Well, I think that that's the thing that happens too, is good people. It's not all just these people. I don't like to label anyone as bad or good or whatever, but I think that human nature is pretty obvious, and what people tend to do, if you look at predictive analytics, like most people get in a position, and when the culture is a certain way, and this is how you fit in with the culture, you jump onto it. And I've seen this happen to good people over and over, who get that title and quit giving the people what they asked for. I know in California, after I left, that the people were asking for a recall of a handful of elections or admins. And I don't know how many people, but there was wide support for it. Enough. When I was admin, if 2 or 3 people would ask for something, a poll, I would put it out. I'm like, sure. You know what I mean? And so they were all asking, and the admin straight up said no. And one I think may have been wavering, like maybe had the courage to do it, and not a single one would stand up. And it's just heartbreaking, because it's like, I understand it's hard to be courageous, but I wanted to show that it was possible while I was there. It turned into Tory having to step in and intervene. And I was so grateful, because it set me free. She answered the one question that I was afraid to answer in that moment. And so for me, it was a gift. But I do believe that people who are still in these positions need to count the cost and stand for the people and stand for what's right. The second that you're willing to turn over on one of your brothers or sister patriots in this fight for pressure, for a click, for maybe Tory wants me to, you are now the just doing your job. You're going to be the ones turning on the fucking ovens. I'm sorry. Right. I don't see it any other way.
Yes. That's absolutely the same people that would be in the guard towers. Okay.
100%. And they'll just, if the right person told them,
go along, get alongs. And we were in this group. We all joined this group because we were going to do it free. There should have never been any censorship or any banning unless you're spamming, posting kiddie porn, or doing some other trading drugs online or something. I don't ban anybody from any of my sites. They can come in and attack me and call me an asshole all day, and I will agree with them because it takes assholes like General Patton to get the job done. And I'm
Yeah.
72. I'm doing this for my kids and my grandkids, and
Yeah.
I don't give a flying fig about their little social things. I put in 13.3 hours a day for the last 730 days, and working on this every weekend, and I want our president back. I wanted to do the stuff that Tori says. I still do, but these people are determined to keep anything that we do from being successful.
They are. And now
We have
I'm glad
no
that we know
mentality,
that.
nothing.
Yep. I know. I think it's safe to say that it's very either an amazing coincidence that it is exactly the same lockstep all over the country, or it's orchestrated. Either way, we know it's here. But I believe that obstacles are opportunities for solutions. So in this last part, before we wrap, let's end on a positive note, because people are listening to this for all kinds of reasons. One, they're spying, they're trying to find something illegal. I say, I'm sure that there's some kind of threats coming my way at some point. Or they're curious and they disagree, and they haven't made it to my conclusion, but they also feel and understand some of the things that we're talking about. So to those people who are still in the community, let's talk about solutions. You don't have to dislike Tori. You don't have to leave the community. Let's talk about some of the workarounds, how people can get things done that you've thought of.
Well, I haven't, I've got a motion to dismiss, actually two motions to dismiss our federal court case. And the rug's been ripped out from under me, and I have no way to even, finance the continuation of my case. But I'm going to answer these on Christmas Day, most likely, after I look at our little video that'll be under my Christmas tree. Okay, but the work isn't stopping.
Yeah.
I have a number of sites. You've got a new YouTube site. We're going to cross promote. We are getting private contacts from a lot of states that are people saying, oh my goodness, you're, preaching to the choir. This happened to me, part of that, and, we are going to continue doing Tory projects, but I'm not just going to willy-nilly for our projects in Team America. And also I formed when the second or third time when I got banned. Okay, I keep getting permanently banned, but there's nobody else doing the work except me and Diane and a few people that work around me and a bunch of people up in the panhandle that weren't even Tory says people, right? But the grand poobah and her little horse farmer sidekick, they control everything. Okay, and so we're going to stop that.
Yes.
We are going to do the projects.
Mm-hmm.
I have a TS Florida because they don't own the franchise. I call it TS We Are Florida, like the main site. I may even get their little palm tree icons instead of my 13-star Betsy Ross thing, so that it looks just like theirs, but it says the A-Team, and we have an A-Team chat. I also have a Team America channel. I'm thinking that we need to get it down to 1 or 2 Telegram. I have like 3 or 4 channels, but for main communications, we need to determine which, or we'll maybe start a new one. But I have these things already there.
I think that, oh, go ahead.
And I already have an LLC, so I have the ability that if we want, we can actually create an organization so that if we do have to take tough steps or something, we will have a tiny little bit of a corporate veil. We can elect officers. This is definitely a nonprofit. It's
No, it's incredible. That's the thing, is that there's always a solution. There's always a workaround. So I would say it's a really good, I'm going to link all of your stuff below. I think people should come into your channel who want to work. You've offered some really incredible resources that people can download and utilize in their states. I also think that each state group or each state. It's an idea for anyone who hasn't already done this. A lot of people already have. It's really important to start something new. I mean, we started something new, and some people are like, it's going to get out eventually. And it's like, you got to get over fear. If it gets out, fine. If we get people in here that are all creeped out and want to come destroy it, like, that's okay. They can be free. They can have their speech, but they won't have any power. There's no structure. There's no, as far as tyranny, there's no power structures or whatever. And what I've noticed in mine is without rules, all of a sudden there was things I tried to get in my stateroom for people to get involved in, whether it be keeping things organized by category of things that you're sharing. Because I created this library space a couple times, and like, I would try to get people to utilize the resources, and I could never do it. I felt like so discouraged because it was like pulling teeth. In this space, it was literally just people getting to know each other and loving on each other. And next thing you know, I created a quick space for them to have stuff organized, and they're all teaching each other, sharing their stuff, showing them how to do it. And I can take my hands off the wheel completely. And I called my girlfriend. I was texting my friend the other day in tears, reading the love and the work that's happening in this room in just a week of it being there. And I'm like, this is amazing.
That's the way it was a year ago, almost today. Okay. Yeah. And there's other things too. Okay. We can set up, we need a national organization.
Yes.
And it can be one person from each state can say, I'll be the, you name yourself, you can be the leader of that state. And if somebody comes and joins you, then the two of you will be the two leaders of that state. And if we get three, the three of you will work it out. And we'll build a national organization. We need to have better communication between the states. Nobody knows what any other state is doing. When I was looking to do this federal case, I had heard that Tennessee did one. Well, it wasn't posted anywhere. Where can I get it? Well, I called up this girl I know up in the Panhandle, and she said, well, I know somebody up in Georgia, and maybe they can, and they got it, or I think Kentucky it was, I don't know. Anyhow, I got it, and you saw the picture. Here it is, and we did it, but why not share the document?
Why can't we read it? I have a story on that. That's so funny. So I forget which state, I don't want to throw them under the bus, but a state did a lawsuit that actually created some good change. It's a southern state. And so I see this and I'm like, that's amazing. I want to share it with my room. So maybe we can mirror something like that in California, because it was a success. So I find out, I put in main chat, I find out who the main admin is of that state. They DM me and they're like, hey, you were looking for this. I said, yeah, would you mind sharing? It's already been filed. It's not secret. It's public record. And I'm like, would you mind sharing it so I can share it with California? Well, are you an admin? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm an admin. First of all, why does that matter? Second of all, I'm like, sure. Yeah, I'm an admin. Well, I don't know that you're an admin. You're not in our like secret admin chat. And I'm like, so I sent a screenshot that said, Tori's owner of this group, California, I'm an admin. And it wasn't enough. He ghosted me. And I was literally like, first of all, this is about saving our country. And it shouldn't be a secret. You should have posted it in main chat and said, here, you guys have at it. My friend worked on a document, like similar to you. She created a 250-page compilation of evidence, including Tori's affidavit, including an incredibly 25-page written thing. She drops it in main chat and is like, use it for whatever you want. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing here? But it's like, you're not super secret admin. Like, you're not in this special. First of all, tell me an admin and what their qualifications are to deem them as more important than any other person in our room, to have any kind of special knowledge about
with no charter,
saving
no elections,
our countries.
No nothing, no rules, no written
It's disgusting.
Rules, except that they've written themselves. Yep. I never signed up for any of that. And why should they have any right to talk about me and say, let's mute him or whatever? Look, I was happy to be muted. I'd been muted.
I thought we were fighting. How are we writing?
I wake up on a Friday. I'm sorry. I wake up last Friday and I find myself, I go to the lawfare thing to look for a document, and guess what? There's no lawfare. Well, then I look and there's nothing. Well, I'm still in the two things. So why overnight was I removed? Well, they want to hide. They knew that I was going to try and sue these people. Not try, I am going to sue them. They have done great damage, not to me, but to the work of many. And they have stalled the goals. I think it was intentional or it was insecurity, whatever it was. Yes, Tori, we are going to have a lawsuit, and it's not because I want to take over the group. It's because we've done lots of work, and nobody should ever say I'm an op either, Tori, which is how she responded to me. And then how she responded to you. Are you an op?
She
I
hasn't
sent her,
responded to me
I
ever.
sent like, page after page in detail on her Telegram site. First time she ever got in, probably because she'd already been watching it because our leader is her friend. And it got this short and sweet thing that I don't have the bandwidth for this now. Work it out yourselves. What are you, some kind of op?
Oh,
Why
but
did you
I have
why did you
countless amounts of
this in
time.
this chat room?
But I have
Wait a minute.
endless amounts of time to argue with influencers on Twitter. I'm just going to say
Pardon?
that real quick.
I'm
But I have a
sorry.
lot of time to argue with influencers on Twitter, which
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Now,
it going
if
on. So I'm
you
not trying to shit on her right now, and I'm trying to rein it in, because as
no,
we talk as friends, it feels really good to just say all the things, that you're not supposed to. But here's the thing, I will say in your defense, to even allude to what I saw of well, they're just suing each other. That's enough. I've watched people get threatened to be sued by her many times for their own other influencers or just whatever. So, let's not call the kettle black.
right.
That's all I'm going to say on that.
And some of the comments that are written back to, I love the stuff she used to send to Ali Akbar and in your face stuff. And why shouldn't I, as a dirty, nasty, creepy, I don't know, whatever the narcissist, pompous asshole, why can't I be a pompous asshole too? I mean,
You're supposed to lie down and take it on the chin. Yeah. One time after I think I was called un-American and disgusting. I'm not sure if she was talking to me or someone else, but it was from her, and I saw it in the main chat. And then I see a post later that said something like "good patriots take it on the chin" or "good soldiers" or something. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, you don't treat people like shit and then tell them that it's their job to learn how to take it. And one thing that's happened to me, it's like, I had a friend tell me, like, when you get out of an abusive relationship, it took her new husband kind of being kind to her and hear her stories and to react with like being appalled, for her to realize that the way she was treated and spoken to was wrong. Because when you're in it, you get conditioned and you get comfortable with it. I've had a man that Tori is very close in her little sphere, I think, threatened to fuck me 8 ways to Sunday publicly. And guess who got attacked for it? Me, for speaking up for myself. I got called disgusting. And I'm like, I was so used to it for so long. It took my boyfriend hearing that he said that, and he was like, he said what? I wish I would see that motherfucker in person. And I was like, oh, I guess that's wrong. But here's the thing, I was treated this bad for so you get used to it after a while, and that's not a healthy thing. No one should ever get used to being spoken to in this way and then told to defend yourself is disgusting. So,
but then you're not allowed to defend yourself. See,
yeah,
I've been accused of the way I talk to
unacceptable.
people. I have answered. You'll never see me. One time when I was being censored, I told our grand poobah to, go fuck yourself. And that was the last thing for 2 months before they got me back in the lawfare group because they needed somebody to do the work.
I've been told that a million times by admins of her main chat. I mean,
yeah, well, the
similar things.
One girl used to write stuff to people like, oh, you're just a limp dick. And then if you came back and commented to her, she banned you.
You're out.
What?
I will say we should wrap this up. We're turning it into a bitch fest. And I will say that I am going to do a funny episode where I'm going to read off some of these messages that I've received. I'll protect the people who said it. I'm not going to use their name, but it's all been said about me publicly. And I'm going to read off some of them for a little fun 10-20 minute special, because it's quite entertaining. And I want people who aren't a part of this community to understand the gravity of what I'm actually talking about. And once you hear it, you're going to be like,
hey, we play a game. Can you top this? You read one, I'll read one of mine. Then you read one, I'll read one of mine.
We'll go to over
And
to
maybe we'll have the people watching. They can score who had the better one in that exchange.
my girlfriend and I, because I used to read these things and I would feel like I was under an attack, like a spiritual attack, because some of the words are so dark. And my girlfriend helped me get through it one night because I was really messed up over some of the words. And she was like, we started reading them like in accents. And we realized like how silly it was. Next thing you know, we're just laughing about it. And I'm like, what a crazy world we're in. Aren't we supposed to be just saving our country, guys? Like, what is going on? It's like, we're essentially that meme of the three Spider-Mans, everyone's pointing the finger at each other and no one's fixing their country. And I'm just like, okay, you guys, it's time to talk about this because we got to get to work. And if that means you got to leave your room or stay in your room and go in a better room and get shit done and then be in the room for just in case something good happens, there's always a way around this bullshit.
Let's finish up with one or two more real quick ideas of things that we need to do.
Great.
Okay, first we need media outreach in every state. All you need is a couple of people that, like for instance, we've got a court case here in Florida. I said, here's a press release. I sent out kind of instructions to everybody, posted it on the one site I was allowed to be on, and asked others to post it on the ones that I'm not allowed to be on. And I don't know if it ever did or it didn't. Nevertheless, I said, here's what we could do. Here's a press release. We have a historical case in, call up your local paper. You're not going to get it from the mainstream, but our mainstream here, we got a conservative little thing, and they're rhinos. They've never printed anything. They didn't even report when we served her with a subpoena, and they were there, all of them. And but hey, if we're mostly women, let's have some women get on the horn and say, hey, we got this case and we'd like to come talk to you about it. And, it's the only one in Florida and we're working on this, a group of patriots, and here's the pictures.
Radio shows. We had a woman in California who got something written up in her local paper. It was amazing. So radio shows, local paper, there's so many avenues. I know a kid that there's a kid in Southern California I've interviewed. He's amazing. He's like 17. He's a political genius. And he calls them and he's gotten interviews with the local news stations because he calls them and is like, do you guys know about this? We need to talk about it. And they've had him on all these times. And I'm just like, this is incredible.
They don't want to talk about anything really controversial, maybe right now.
But educational stuff they want to know about.
And hey, once you've got your foot in the door, okay, you don't want to talk about our court case because you're all rhinos or you're liberals and you want to believe Biden won. Okay, well, we're also working in the school here. And they're doing this and that, and look, we're going to have a meetup of our group. There's about 10 of us. If you're not doing anything Saturday, come. And I wrote all that out. And as usual, the overwhelming response was underwhelming. Yeah. It was crickets, nothing. And what are we doing this for?
Yeah,
we're not going to publicize it. This court case is useless, and might as well withdraw it, not spend any more money or time on it because. Without the publicity, without people learning of what really happened and asking the questions and getting that stuff out there. Well, okay, next thing. Okay, media outreach. Yeah. Next we need finance. Look, form a club in your state. Call yourselves the Tory said on the East Coast, I have the new group of rejects called the Tory says deplorables. And I think you call your group the misfits. So the National Alliance of Deplorables and Misfits from the Tory says rejects, whatever we call ourselves. But we need a club, okay? Call your club whatever you want. Get 3 of you. Go to your bank, say, we just formed the whatever bring back the President Trump Club. How can we set up an account? Yeah. Okay, well, you're just a club. Okay, well, so long as 3 of you sign the checks, whatever. And then set up one of these little PayPal kind of things so that you can get some money in so that people that are doing work, just one toner thing. And for this high volume thing that prints all this shit, okay, is $90.
It's just like it's so simple. Anyone in the community could use these funds too for, like you said, office supplies, toners. We've all worked in businesses where you send in your receipt, document it. Like, I need this for that. Super simple.
And
Super
when I
simple.
bring it up here, I'm trying to lead, and we're not about making money. Making money, lady. What are you making money? Holy shit.
How much have you spent? You
We're
don't have to
not
say,
about
but
making money. We're about going bankrupt, and we're not going to have anything to show for it. At least if we had a court case or two, and I want to do a writ of mandamus. It's written. All we
yeah.
need is these affidavits. Crickets, nothing. And then for Tori yesterday to make it out when she knew that I had contacted her, and she knows this isn't about leadership, and pretend like she didn't even know who I am when I filed 3 cases here, and she's publicized a couple little things about them. And I have the Tori Clips channel, and I put her links on my channel. I do the work, and I trust that people send her the money because I am a faithful follower. I always have been, but it's not going to be a cult for me. I don't believe in cults, and I understand you had some experience with that. And this is cult behavior in some of these states now, and we have to end it. So we need finance, media outreach, and we need elected leaders to like do minimal coordinating things, but it should really be, we're all adults here. I don't need some 35-year-old admin who's not been in government, who has never had to fight a lawsuit. And I create lawsuits everywhere I go. So, well, I don't.
You don't need to be babysat by
I don't need
anyone.
tell me how to talk. And also to have the balance of the rules are always against the one who's the whistleblower, the better debater, the one is calling for change.
The hardest worker.
Nothing. The scarecrows,
Exactly.
the flying monkeys are picking the straw out of the scarecrow, and I'm laying there going, wait a minute, I thought we were all on the same team. So.
Well, this has been so great having you on. I'm happy you're in my life. Huh?
How long we've been doing this?
Oh, about an hour and a half.
Holy shit, really?
Not too bad. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm happy to know you. I feel like you're like me. Like we've had that conversation. We're like the same person, like in different ages and gender, just because we've had such similar experiences in our lives as far as we've always been the outspoken people in any job or any situation that we're in by nature. And so I just have to let you know, it's really powerful to find someone so fearless, and everyone is very terrified, and I get it. And I couldn't believe there was someone else like me out there who wasn't just being nasty and like, I hate Tori and like, screw her. That's not what's happening here.
That's why I didn't sleep the other night, and I got up and started listening to your thing and going, holy shit, this girl's channeling me. I've been channeling her. And
I was grateful to find you. I mean, it was a godsend.
For every video of yours, every little clip of yours that I posted, I have got a similar clip. Not quite as eloquent as yours, as I've said, I don't have the sweet, feminine sounding sanguine.
Wait. My narcissism is like growing as we speak.
No, but I'm listen,
kidding.
I told my friend Diane, I said, this girl is way beyond her years.
I'm following God. I'm following God's lead for me. I just personally know when it's time to talk, and I just do. And I don't usually understand why the timing or why I'm saying what I am until later, because that's why I'm trusting that this is a God thing. He's shown me he's used me too many times for things that I didn't know what the hell I was doing in the middle. And then later I'm like, I see what you did there. That was cool. So it's my job to listen and show up. But
this was the right time for us to meet.
It was.
I think that we are on the two coasts, two very big states that have failed miserably so far, trying to do it their way. Let's get these admins out of the way, Tori. It's not about me wanting to lead. And why in an honest operation are they trying to stifle the truth? Why don't you come out and answer us fairly, Tori? I talked to you, sent you a bunch of stuff. Why is it that you're asking if I'm an op? With all the stuff I've done, if I'm an op, I'm the worst damn op there ever was. And as for infiltrators, we don't need infiltrators here in Florida. Those people flattered themselves to think that an infiltrator could only make things better down here. Well, that's how bad things have become.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not true, because we do have infiltrators, and we got a lot of these naval intel kind of people that are floating around in our elected positions now, and going all the way up to governor, to sanctimonious. Oh, I'm not. Diane said, just call him by his name. That sounds so, that's. I used to hate when George Papa Bush would call Saddam Hussein Saddam. I'm going to get Saddam.
Saddam.
So I gotta quit copying Trump and calling him Governor Ron DeSantis. Okay, the whole Navy whites and stuff, but he was a school teacher before that, and he's got a little interesting history with that. And well, we'll see. I don't know. I don't want to make any false allegations. So this, we probably should end now before.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I thank you for being a guest. This was just a great conversation. Again, I'm going to let everybody know, if you want to tell your story, or let me tell it for you, you have an open door. Or if you just want to share with me, I would love to hear. I've had multiple states that are saying the same thing, and I'm gaining in a lot of understanding. It's what's the word? Confirmation, which feels nice when you feel alone in this, wherever you are, and then you find out that it's happening to others. It gives you courage to talk about it, or at least change it, fix it, find a way around it. But I hope I wish Tori the best. I truly hope that I see a change of heart. I hope that I see her prove me wrong in my assumptions about what is really happening here. The second that happens, I will be the first person to give her praise. I'll always,
smartest lady I've ever heard talk.
100%.
I've learned so much from this woman, and I'm not going to stop doing the Tory Clips channel. I'm not going to stop being a fan. She's a brilliant person, but she probably in all those other courses never took one in management. Never took one in how to manage large, and that's the kind of thing you can't learn, okay, until you're in it.
We'll see. We'll see if the system is broken or if the system is actually flawless. I guess time will tell.
We need to get rid of these admins. I will, in terms of these things that you put up, if you, I'll see them, because we're going to start, and I will cut them into segments like we have been doing on my Telegram channels. We'll cross-channel, we'll cross-pollinate between the East Coast Southerners and the
West Coast.
I
We
don't know
will.
what they call you guys, but we were both on the same side before Trump too. So
we were.
We won't tell them that.
Everyone knows I was a lifelong liberal.
History.
No, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to link everything below. Thank you for coming on, everyone. Please go join his channel on Telegram, and I hope to have you on again. I'd like to hear just one where you talk about your life in the future, because we've talked a lot off camera, and I'm fascinated by your experience. So thank you for coming on.
Like a Walter Mitty thing. Read that. It's an old short story. Not everybody knows that, but it is. It's kind of crazy.
It is.
Thank you.
All right. So much. Thank you so much.
Have a great Christmas, and hey kids, look for this interview under your Christmas tree tomorrow.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.